So I want to tell you about a crazy dream that I had. I had a dream that Josh Freed was videotaping me. And in this dream, I was driving the Osher members to work. Everyone could see my brand new license plate cover that said Osher at JHU team. I got out of the car and I said, hi.
I'm Susan Howard, Osher at JHU Program Director.
And Ann Wicker got out on the other side, on the passenger side, and said, hi, I'm Ann Wicker.
Hi, I'm Ann Wicker, JHU. Hi, I'm Ann Wicker, Osher at JHU Administrative Supervisor.
And each program assistant got out of the car and said, I'm Michael Puella.
What's up? I'm Michael Puella. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I can't say what's up. I can't say what's up, it's too weird. Okay. What's up? I'm Michael Puella, Osher at JHU Program Assistant.
And I'm Kaylee Divins.
Greetings, I'm Kaylee Divins, Osher at JHU Program Assistant.
Finally, Raul Rivera got out of the car and said, I'm Raul Rivera.
How's it going? I'm Raul Rivera, the casual temp at Osher at JHU.
Osher at JHU is not just another lifelong learning program. We are a community of learners. As you are about to see, we have
Remarkable faculty.
An excellent facility.
Outstanding classes.
And opportunities to engage with like-minded peers.
As members of the Montgomery County campus team, we are here to
Plan courses, special activities, and trips.
Register you for classes and events.
Support instructors who teach our classes.
And answer all of your questions.
But we are not just Osher at JHU staff members. We are people just like you.
We love coffee.
We like our lunch breaks and good food.
We love learning and like to travel.
And we all love it here.
So, when you arrive on campus, you already have 5 new friends.
Come see us.
Stop by.
Visit our office.
We'll be waiting for you.
We each talked a little bit about what we do for Osher and what role we play, and then we walked into campus together. And that was my dream. See you soon.
I'm Mel Goodman. I've been teaching a course called International Relations here at Hopkins for nearly 20 years. And I don't think the course has ever been more relevant than it is now because of the very difficult international situation we face abroad, but the very important domestic challenge we face at home. We have a president who has become unpredictable, and some even question his stability. And now we have the formation of a war cabinet. When you look at the positions occupied at the CIA and the National Security Council and the Department of State. So the challenge in the course, and it's the challenge I guess that I have, is to make these regional areas relevant to American national security interests so that when you come away from the course, you have a better understanding of American foreign policy, American national security policy, American interests around the world, and when and where military force should be used. So I would like to have students think about challenges to what I say, challenges to conventional wisdom, challenges to what we hear from not only our politicians and our president, but what we hear from our pundits and our press.
Hi, I'm Robert Barchet, and I'll be teaching a course called Short Stories of Kurt Vonnegut and Franz Kafka this fall 2018 semester. This should be a rather interesting course. Usually we don't do two different authors, but I decided, or should I say I might have been pressured by some of my students to include Franz Kafka. When I was originally going to do Kurt Vonnegut, a writer of the 20th century, considered a dark humorist, some of my students came up to me and said, "Bob, how about adding something European to it, something light and frothy?" Well, what's more light and more frothy than Franz Kafka? An absurdist, an existentialist, a person who is subject to many anxiety attacks in his writing and in his own life. So that's what we'll be doing, and I would suggest if you're going to take this course, buckle up. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Hi, I'm Jim Blue. I've been an instructor here since 2004. I did a lot of great books courses. I've done Aeschylus, Thucydides, Virgil, Dante, all the way up to Jane Austen and Oscar Wilde. I've been doing Shakespeare for a while. I've done 9 comedies, 5 histories, and 3 tragedies. I'm going to continue through the major tragedies this fall. I'm doing Othello. My classes are discussion classes, not lecture classes. We read in class. I explain the bits you don't understand. I know more about Shakespeare than you do. I try to keep things amusing, and sometimes it even works. The way we do it, we read a bit of the play in class in parts. We discuss that. I show clips of a few movies, and we discuss those. We keep the class small enough so we have good discussion, and you get to know everybody. If you do this class, you'll have fun. You'll learn a lot about Othello. You'll learn quite a bit about Shakespeare, and you'll get to know several of your classmates better.
Hi, I'm Steve Friedman. I'm looking forward to teaching a course this fall that's going to focus on the divas and the great personalities they created and added to the Broadway musical. You know, it's interesting to think that you have someone like a Merman, and how did she become the personality that she became, you know, from Annie Get Your Gun or Anything Goes with Cole Porter, and then the work she did with Irving Berlin. And then we have Mary Martin, of course. There's lots of secrets about Mary Martin I can't wait to share. And you know, it wasn't just that she was around, it was that South Pacific made her famous and how her career got managed to create the persona and the image that she portrayed. The little girl from Texas wasn't exactly what you might imagine. And then we're going to talk maybe about Carol Channing. How did she get to Hello Dolly, the iconic role that became hers, or then to Bernadette Peters or some of the others. And if we really have good, you know, some time, we might even talk about some of the men, like a Rex Harrison perhaps, or Yul Brynner, and how they got to be who they are. Since everybody asks me to, I will promise I'll sing a little bit, but I'm going to have some great clips of some of the things that have made Mary Martin and some of these other divas really into the famous, crazy Broadway ladies that they became. Look forward to seeing you in the fall.
Hi, I'm Ken Hinga. I'm a retired oceanographer. Also spend a bit of time as a scientist at the USDA Foreign Agricultural Service. Been teaching a course called Making Choices, Understanding Environmental Issues. Been doing this at least half a dozen times now, both for an OLLI at American University and what was once called the USDA Graduate School. The idea of the course is to prepare people to make choices in their everyday lives. That's where the making choices came from. And it's a bit of basic science, and I mean really basic. It is not intended to turn people into a scientist, but to give people some basic how the world works information to make choices. It's climate change is a big issue again. Do we support climate change? Do we believe the naysayers? Do we go into a grocery store and shun or embrace transgenic foods? What about that scary stuff called ionizing radiation? We're going to cover some basic background on that. We'll also touch on a bit of science along the way, how science works. And the whole idea is to give you skills to be able to look at an issue and understand it and make your own choices.
Hi, my name is Stan Levin. This coming semester I'm teaching a class called Otto Preminger, Movie Iconoclast. Otto Preminger is not a great director, and sometimes he's not even a good director, but he's an important director. What makes him so important? This is the man who took on the House Un-American Activities Committee. He's the one who took on the Catholic Church and censorship. He touched every taboo subject that had been prohibited in films before. He takes on homosexuality. He takes on drug abuse. He takes on manipulations of power, even rape, and using the word rape in a film. That's Anatomy of a Murder. He came to fame with a movie called Laura, where actually he was not the original director, Ruben Mamoulian was. But that made his career in America. And what's interesting, here is a man born in Austria, a Jewish guy who comes to America after he has established his career in Europe. And he becomes this temperamental terror to deal with, and often he appears on screen playing what? A Nazi, as he did in Stalag 17. So during the course of the semester, we're going to see what made this man the iconoclast that he was, and look at the films that changed American film history and subsequently world history. And when I tell you a film like The Moon is Blue ended censorship, you're going to look at the film and say, really? That's what the Catholic Church condemned? It should be a very exciting course, and I hope you enjoy it. I look forward to seeing you on Tuesday afternoons. Thank you.
My name is Jim Applebaum. I've been a journalist for a good part of my life, and what attracted me to OSHA 3 years ago was the variety of courses, and particularly Paul Chassey's workshop on the essay. I was flattered and a little taken back when Paul asked me to succeed him in the course. And as I looked at it, I thought that with the current absolute bliss of opinions flying left and right, that this would be an ideal time to focus in for the semester, and it may change later on, for the semester on opinion writing, a form of the persuasive or argumentative essay. I've been interested in this probably ever since my father brought home his New York Post, and I started to read Murray Kempton as a kid and got to appreciate different writing styles of different opinion writers. This term we will look at opinions, some of which we will accept as confirming our own beliefs, and others that may seem very difficult to swallow. I think that what I'd like to see at the very end of the course is a better appreciation for what goes into the architecture and the thinking behind opinion writing, and what our own responses are to that, particular genre of expressive writing.
Hello, my name is Tony Kane, and I'm teaching a course called Confucianism, Communism, and the Chinese Dream. I want to look at the question of how we understand the rise of China today. I'm a historian who started giving lectures on contemporary China because in the 1980s, when I first started teaching, I noticed that there was a lot of misrepresentation of China in the media, and I was asked by community groups to give talks to explain what was going on. Fast forward to today, I think there are a lot of the same misunderstandings, and that these misunderstandings come from the overuse of labels that often obscure more than they reveal. So communism is the label we use to understand contemporary China, and that's very much seen as a bad thing in the United States, and yet there are many things that we like about the rise of capitalism in China. So how do we understand that contradiction? Confucianism is the word we use for traditional China, and also the word the Chinese government now uses to represent itself abroad in its Confucian institutes. So I want to look at Confucianism and both past and present. And finally, the Chinese themselves get confused. So Xi Jinping, their leader, has come up with a new term, the Chinese Dream. And I want to look at how that will help us understand contemporary China today and where it's going in the future.
Hi, my name is Richard Letterman, and I'll be teaching a 6-week course in the fall titled Evolutionary Faith. For the most part, we think of religion and science as being polar opposites. But as little Sheldon from the TV show that bears his name says, science is based in facts, religion is based in belief. The truth is, however, is that religion and science have the same goal: to come to an understanding of how the universe operates and what is our role in that great scheme of things. This course will explore the thoughts of revolutionary Catholic theologian Father Diarmuid O'Morchu. A prolific author, O'Morchu tears down the barriers between science and religion by seeking an understanding of the universe based on the modern science of cosmology and quantum physics. What he discovers is not only an expanding and evolving universe, but an expanding and evolving divine presence and consciousness as well. His challenge to us is to use the tools of modern cosmology and quantum physics to expand our understanding of the divine presence and consciousness in our own lives. I hope you'll join us.
Hello, I'm Roberta Ben-Or, and this semester I'll be teaching something different. It's called How Young Are You? We'll explore the differences in the generations and their motivations from your parents through your grandchildren, with a special emphasis on baby boomers. You'll even be able to test your knowledge of pop culture. I will hit topics such as your legacy, your housing options, why you're here, what you plan to do, and let you vent on what the generations mean to you. I hope you'll be able to join me. It's always good to try something new.
Hello, mystery lovers. I'm Melinda Kramer, and I hope that you'll be joining me for our Mystery and Detective Fiction class starting on October 30th, Tuesday afternoons from 1 to 3 p.m. I have a puzzle for you. What do Dr. Silken's House of Wonders, a parrot, and a beehive have in common? Well, here's your clue. Sherlock Holmes. Ever since A Study in Scarlet came on the scene in 1887, there have been imitators of Sherlock Holmes, some of them terrible and some of them terrific. This fall, we're going to look at 3 really terrific ones. I think you will enjoy them. We'll be reading Anthony Horowitz's A House of Silk. We'll be looking at Laurie R. King's The Beekeeper's Apprentice, and we'll be reading Michael Chabon's The Final Solution. We're also going to, of course, start with the master himself. At the beginning, we'll be looking at some Sherlock Holmes stories written by Arthur Conan Doyle, and at the end, we're going to look at a wonderful short story written 2 years ago by John Connolly that takes Sherlock and Watson beyond the pale to the house of death. I hope that you'll be joining me because I'm going to be looking for you on Tuesday afternoon starting October 30th.
Hello, my name is Roger Bruniet, and I will be teaching a course called In Nature's Mirror. This is a course on how artists of different kinds have used nature as a metaphor for their feelings about life and why we're here on the world, in the world. Each class will begin with the visual arts and branch off into literature, music, opera, dance, whatever it might be. The first part will be called Landscape as Ideal, in which artists have used nature as a way of trying to explain the order behind the creation of the world and the world in which we live. The next will be Landscape as Feeling, or Landscape as Emotion, which will take in the romantic view of landscape nature as a form of terror, as a form of wonder, as a reflection of our feelings of love and passion. And finally, there'll be a short segment on landscape as reality, in which we will see the people who actually work in the land and whose lives are anything but ideal. And we'll look at nature as it now is, under threat by different man-made means, and what we can do about it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bob Hines. This is my first new course at Osher School. I am a retired teacher of 50 years, and I'm offering a course I'm very excited about on the Russian Revolution, covering from the end of the Crimean War to Lenin's death. I want to tackle certain myths known about Russia, that the commune is like some giant peasant uprising, which it was not, that there were various stages to the Russian Revolution that led up to it. It was not an inevitable event. It was a failure on a number of persons who failed to make reforms, and the catastrophic events of the World War I put Russia in the middle of that, and that played into the events that led Lenin to come out of exile, with the help of the Germans, by the way, to begin the overthrow of the remains of the provisional government. And then the struggles of the provisional government will be a great deal of detail regarding just the summer and winter of 1917, 1918. And then we will move on to the Lenin era. There's a lot of myth about Lenin. I thought when I went to school he was kind of a benevolent dictator, but history has proved out that he really set up the dictatorship that eventually became Stalin. So we really want to get you out of this course a general overview of Russian history, but at the same time explore in depth some of the major personalities that shaped it.
Hi, my name is Rabbi Shalom Reichik. I'm here rabbi at Chabad in Gaithersburg, just up the street from this location. We're giving a course coming up this coming fall called Living with Integrity, dealing with medical and legal ethical issues. The laws of the country will tell us what we have the right to do. The question is, what is the ethical, moral thing that we are supposed to be doing? So, starting from the times of the Torah, the Bible, going into the Talmud, Maimonides, Code of Jewish Law, these issues have been debated in many fashions. And they speak to us in today's day and age as to what we are permitted and what we should be doing. So when it comes to how should we be dealing with our medical treatments, decisions to be made, should we treat, should we not? Privacy issues. When do I have to be quiet about something? When I'm permitted to reveal about something. Genetic elements. When is it permitted to bend the truth a bit? These are elements that we are going to be dealing with in our upcoming course. And we are going to combine a medical, legal, ethical element. And when you leave the course, what's going to happen is you're going to say, hey, These are ideas that I need to be thinking about on a day-to-day basis in my own life. I hope to see you there. We're going to have a great time with it.
Hi, I'm Marvin Kalb, and I'm here with my brother, Bernard Kalb. He's the younger of the Kalb. At least that's the line I'm going to use today. In any case, what we're trying to do is to talk about what's happening in the world and put it in a sort of context of our own personal experiences. Mine for many years in Russia, Bernie for many years in Southeast Asia. Is that right?
That's correct.
All right, so tell me about it.
Well, when I think of the class, I see the major headlines of the day, and the first thought that comes to my mind is how can we nourish those headlines with more background? And what I think of this class as being is sharing what, let me call, headlines we were at. All of us in the class, ourselves included, are of a certain age, and we've lived through the same headlines over the past few decades. Suddenly a story appears, an urgent story, a fearful story, and all these stories have roots. And we were, by the nature of our work as journalists over the years, we were at the inception of some of these conflicts. And so what I like to do is to share what it was like to be at the headline of a story you're reading today.
That's going to be the course.
Marvin, I will be listening carefully.
So will I.
My name is Jerry Nelson, and we're teaching for, I believe, the 5th year, I think, of significant events in baseball. I co-teach with a guy named Phil Hochberg, whom some of you may know, was a former PA announcer for the Senators and Redskins and a member of the DC Sports Hall of Fame. As far as our program, we're going to deal with gambling in baseball, a problem that has plagued the sport from the very beginning, from the early part even of the 19th century. And goes on into scandals, a fixed World Series, the famous 1919 Black Sox World Series, in which 8 players were banned from professional baseball forever. We'll discuss the case of Leo DeRocher, who's gotten suspended because he associated with gamblers, and then the case of Pete Rose, who does gamble. We're going to do a show on baseball collectibles. We have a collector and we have a dealer, and they're going to deal with all the cards and antique cards, bats, balls, and so forth. Phil will deal with unwritten rules, codes of ethics that aren't written down anywhere, but that players are supposed to observe. I asked him for an example, and he gave me an unwritten rule that says if you're ahead by many runs late in the game or behind by many runs late in the game, don't steal bases. That's disrespectful of the other side. So thanks very much for looking at this, and I hope we get to see you starting in September.
Hello, fellow Osherites. Roland Fraser here. A rabbi, a priest, and a photographer walk into a bar. Bartender looks up and says, "What is this, some kind of a joke?" No, no joke. The history of photography has been renewed for a 2nd season. Unlike last fall, we will be able to look more closely into the artistic, commercial, and cultural aspects of photography. First 100 years. We're going to be covering the period from 1839, the beginning of photography, to 1939, just before the outbreak of World War II. As before, this is a visually oriented class with lots of lively discussion and looking at tons and tons of photographs. So, I hope to see you next fall in the 2nd 6-week session of the history of photography. I might leave you with an old Korean proverb: even a fish can keep out of trouble as long as it keeps its mouth shut. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bob Clark, and I'll be teaching a class the fall of 2018 called A Social History of France from 1940 to 1945, Part 3. We'll be doing 1944 and 45. The class is centered on a French drama called A French Village that documents the lives of ordinary Frenchmen during the period of the German occupation in World War II. The class runs 2.5 hours because the topics raised during the drama are discussed in class. They're many and varied. You can find them in your course offering description. The fact that we're in part 3 is going to make it difficult for people who haven't taken it before to join us, but I encourage you to do so. It's going to be a very interesting and stimulating class, and we hope by the time it concludes that you're going to have an understanding and appreciation of this period in French history. So I'm looking forward to seeing you in the fall. Thank you.
Hello, I'm James Stone. I'll be teaching a course on Shakespearean tragedy, Macbeth and King Lear. Both of these plays were written in 1606, which was one of the miracle years for Shakespeare. Both are devastating tragedies, but it's not going to be too sober a course, I think. Macbeth, of course, is a tale of horror and destruction and apocalypse. A young man, a young lady, his wife, who want to be in charge, who want to take over and murder their king in order to do so. King Lear is a much older man. He's 80 years old. He's a widower. I think that's significant. He has 3 children and he wants to retire. He wants to retire rather early. Looking forward to having you join me in this course. This will be my 2nd year of teaching at Osher, or really almost my 2.5-year mark. Look forward to having you come and be part of the course. We will also do some video. We will do maybe 2/3 of the course will be talking and conversation and lecture by me. I'll lead you through the greatest hits. And then we'll have about 1/3 of each class will be video, famous films, famous productions, and we'll let you talk a little bit about your reaction to that in the final 5 minutes.
I'm Eric McWilliams, instructor for Section 1 of Wednesday's Great Books class. When Hopkins started their continuing ed program for seniors 35 years ago, only 3 different classes were offered: International Relations, A History of Art, and the Wednesday's Great Books. And all 3 have been offered continuously since that time. We've been into short stories for many years in this class. We're currently in an anthology consisting of stories by 38 different authors from 35 different countries. We'll continue in that text in the fall, but I'll also work in a short classic novel, a practice I started this semester. We follow the Socratic shared inquiry method of learning rather than the more common lecture method. There's usually a different instructor leading the discussion for each story each week. If no one volunteers for a story, I do so, and I also lead the discussions for the novel. This exposure to this kind of literature, particularly by authors who are often unknown to me, can often be enlightening. And using the shared inquiry method not only increases our understanding of the stories and the authors, but also the values and beliefs of the others in the class. This fosters a sense of community which I value highly, as do some of my classmates.
Hi, I'm Tim Holland, and I lead or teach a class called Great Books 2, and that means there are 2 of us teaching the same content, basically, although our methodology may be different. It's through fiction, through literature, good literature, that the writers that we read take us inside of characters that they want to explore. And it's going inside that we get to learn about inside a character is how we get to learn more about ourselves. I like to use 2 examples. We can't know the color blue. We know that the earth looks blue from the outside, but your blue to another person is probably different. We teach short stories and include 1 or 2 novellas each semester. And if it's appropriate, we will include poetry, 1 or 2 poems. And we have a lot of fun, a lot of laughter in the class, and also a lot of crossed arms for some people who don't really appreciate the particular character we're talking about. And that's another reason I like doing this. Difference of opinion is everything. So I hope to see you this fall.
My name is John McCarthy. I'm the State's Attorney for Montgomery County. My class is Contemporary Criminal Justice Issues. What I attempt to do each week is to talk about the most current topics are confronting us, not only in Montgomery County, but on a national level involving criminal justice. But again, what we try to do is we try to lift off of the pages of the Washington Post and the front pages of newspapers across the United States the kinds of things that people are talking about in terms of criminal justice and make them a part of our 6-week seminar. My goal is to actually make people more intelligent about some of these issues. I think that almost all of these issues, they can be sometimes simplified by media, simplified even within the press, but issues of how we're going to deal with police-involved shootings, the mental health challenge that confronts us in the criminal justice arena, the avalanche of heroin deaths that have befell Maryland as heroin has become more and more popular as a drug. These kinds of social issues, the complexities that surround it, the complexities that surround the use of body cameras. What does that mean in terms of privacy, retention? Are we violating wiretap laws? Making people explore and maybe think about some aspects of the criminal justice arena that they may witness very superficially from their couches in their living rooms and get a fuller understanding of how complex some of these issues are.
Hi, my name is Elliot Fansteel. I'm the CEO at Strathmore Music Center. But it's my honor today to talk to you about a wonderful program we bring to Osher every year, which is Strathmore at Osher. We bring in artists who are in sort of a training phase here. They're in their 20s or 30s. They're just starting off their careers. And we bring them to Osher where they play music, where I ask them questions about how they got into what they're doing or why that special instrument is so special. And then you ask them questions between pieces for the rest of the time. You need no prior experience. You do need a curiosity about why and how do musicians get into their careers and then make a living and put food on the table. And we will talk about all of that, plus of course hear some magnificent music from everything from classical pianists to jazz bassists to bluegrass groups to instruments of other lands. It's an extraordinarily wide-ranging, open-ended and participatory activity. This is like a show, and you're going to get the best of entertainment as well as education. This program has registered over 150 people every semester, so I would be quick with your reservation. Seats are limited to the extent of the auditorium, but mostly I guarantee you have not seen anything like this unless you've seen this. And once you've seen this, you will come back year after year after year.
Hello, my name is Saul Lilienstein, and I'm going to be presenting a course called Vienna, the Golden Century of Sound. Vienna has implied for, I think, all of us, a city filled with music, and that's true. But what does the century mean? I mean, for some people, a century always means when 00 changes into the next 00. But I don't look at that as the necessary century. I look at a time period which holds together. And the holding together was from actually 1815 in Vienna until 1914, when it all came disastrously apart for everyone. But in 1815, Vienna had Beethoven and Franz Schubert. And then a few years later, Johannes Brahms moved into town. And then Gustav Mahler moved into town. And with all this music, what we really should do is try to understand it within a larger context. Music, yes, but art and architecture and literature and society and poetry. And all of this together, you might say, what's Lilienstein doing teaching all those things? He doesn't know all those things. I don't. That's the real truth of it. But give me some time, and I'll learn what I have to make this course as valuable as possible for myself and for everyone who is there with me.
I'm Eleanor Clift, and I'll be teaching a course this fall at Osher titled The Reckoning. It looks ahead to the midterm elections in November and the possibility that Democrats might be able to regain some control in Washington. Right now, the Republicans own the White House and both houses of Congress, and Democrats are really out in the wilderness. All the signs indicate some pretty competitive fights going into the fall for the House and for the Senate. A record number of women are running. 1992 was the year of the woman. This could be the decade of the woman. And you have Republicans very eager to protect their majority. They're even fundraising over the talk of the potential impeachment of the president. And they are taking the position that Democrats are trying to unseat a duly elected president. So Democrats don't want to talk about impeachment. They want to talk about the policy issues they have with the president. And he has been such a radical change as a chief executive in this country that the midterm elections are widely seen as a referendum on President Trump. So it's an important time in American history. It's a fascinating time for all, and very important for everybody to be engaged. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gidon Amira, and I'm going to teach a class on the stories of Joseph, Esther, and Daniel. We have here 3 stories of 3 different people, very different from one another and very different stories. However, what is so fascinating is the fact that once you read the text, you see that both the authors of Esther and the authors of Daniel were highly influenced by the story of Joseph, and the story of Joseph was actually the basis to the structure of their story. So what we will do, we'll study each story separately, but we will also look at the different and amazing connections between the stories, and I hope that you will come to this class and enjoy it.
Hello, my name is Nora Hammerman, and I'm going to be giving a class on Michelangelo Buonarroti. It's going to be called Discovering Michelangelo. And there are 2 reasons why I think you'll be interested in this class. One is that you're going to learn a lot of new things about works of art that are extremely famous that you may think you know, like the great colossal statue of David, or the Pietà in the Vatican, or the Sistine Chapel ceiling, or the wonderful statue of Moses. Many of those pieces of art are no longer in the places for which they were originally designed, and therefore they've taken on different meanings over time. Another thing that you're going to learn, which I think will be very enjoyable, is many facets of Michelangelo's artistic life that are not well known to the public. For example, could count on the fingers of 2 hands the number of great figures of Italian literature. Did you know that Michelangelo was one of them? Because of his poetry and his correspondence. Did you know that Michelangelo was a great engineer? Every bit as good as Leonardo da Vinci, and if you were to set themselves up one next to the other in terms of what they actually achieved, Michelangelo might win. He's also a great architect. If you look at our Capitol building or the capitals of many states, you should know that you're seeing the Dome of St. Peter's replicated in different ways. He was a great city builder. He was very influential as an architect. The class will end up by showing the reactions to Michelangelo, the second Michelangelo, Caravaggio, who refuted everything he did.
I'm Al White, and I
coordinate the guest lecture series here at Johns Hopkins. I've been doing it now for 7 years, and we have an incredible lineup. Thank you for your support and your recommendations. This year, half of our recommendations are from within. Highlights, and by the way, the thing I love about this is not only the subject matter expertise, but also enrichment. And we've got 12 incredible people lined up. Thanks again for your support for this program.
Hi, my name is Carl Hampman. I'm the guy in the hat, but not today. I want to tell you I am the instructor or facilitator for our current events class, or Current Events Plus as I like to call it now. Inspired by Marshall Snyderman, my predecessor, each class begins with an issue that I think will generate good discussion: politics, government, technology, theater, all fields that are possible in a current events class. And I start with a little video showing perhaps different sides of opinion. It seems to go very well. That's the first half of the class. The second half of the class, we do the current events of the week. Somebody once said, "May you live in interesting times." We sure do. There's always a lot to talk about. And I want to make one point very clear. All reasoned opinions are welcome in my class, and they will be respected. That's very important to me, and I hope anyone who's been reluctant because their views were not unpopular, but they're interested in current events, will feel comfortable in my class. So talk to people who've taken the class. If you see me, please stop and talk. If you're interested in what's going on in this country and the world, I think you'll find it very rewarding. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Elena Newland. My course will briefly explore the cinema of Russia for the last 30 years. We will watch films of different directors and genres made in the late Soviet time as well as the most recent time frame. This will give you an opportunity to better understand Russian modern life, history, mentality, character, and culture. We will be reviewing Russian movies that have received the nominations for the Best Foreign Language Film of the Academy Award. The class will include a presentation, film clips, often whole film, and discussions. I hope you will enjoy this class. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Iris Lipkowitz. I'll be teaching a course on Balanchine and his ballets. This is a course that focuses on Balanchine and his music, and is a great course for people who are musically inclined and or ballet inclined, but not sure they want to take a 12-week course. Balanchine was a prolific choreographer to many composers. We'll focus on his use of Stravinsky's music, Tchaikovsky's music, and a number of French composers. We will watch a PBS DVD of his life and works. We'll also watch an extensive DVD by a British musicologist, which focuses on Balanchine's use of Stravinsky's music. And we'll watch clips and full ballets of Balanchine. Come join me.
Hi, my name's Bob Schoenberg. I'm teaching a class called 6 Plays, 4 Centuries. These are all what are called comedies of manners. They are plays that make fun of the behaviors of the people who are the characters in those plays. The great period for this kind of drama is the late 17th through the 18th century, and we're going to start with that famous play, The School for Scandal, featuring Mrs. Malaprop. And then we're going to go back and actually read a play of Moliere's in translation, and one of the plays from a so-called Restoration comedy. Then we're going to come up to more modern times, read Oscar Wilde's The Importance of Being Earnest, a play from the early part of the 20th century, perhaps Philip Barry's The Philadelphia Story, and then we're going to finish with Edward Albee's The American Dream, so that we can see how this tradition of comedy of manners comes down to our own time.
Hi, I'm Bruce Hirschfeld, and I'm going to be teaching the Summer Opera Intercession here at Osher. And we're going to do the second installment on the three-part Verity series. And I'm going to be doing the operas, 4 operas in their entirety. The first opera is Il Trovatore, which was a masterpiece at its premiere, and it's still considered a masterpiece, and people can't get enough of it. The second opera is Verdi's most intimate opera, La Traviata, and that's considered perhaps one of the most popular operas today and still leaves them weeping in the aisle. The third opera is Un ballo in maschera, a masked ball, which is a revenge tragedy with lots of comedy in it, but a fatal ending. And the fourth opera is Simon Boccanegra, which is underperformed, but has a lot of music in it that points to Verdi's final period. And the class is going to be taught Monday afternoons from 1 to 3, sometimes 1 to 4, beginning on June 11th and going through July 16th. Looking forward to seeing you there. We'll have a lot of fun.